当个好人，有意见不说就是最大的残忍。欢迎收听 CP 有主见，请踊跃发表意见。Hello， 各位甲方，大家好，我是 CP， 欢迎收听 CP 有主见。这一集呢，一样是邀请到我的澳洲朋友 Fred， 然后来跟大家分享数位游牧的主题。他目前是一个全远距的工作者，在一个澳洲的新创金融公司上班。然后他花很多时间在台湾，这已经不是他第一次来台湾了。刚刚上一集有跟大家提到嘛，基本上他10月的时候就是会在台湾。如果呢你对数位游牧有任何的疑问，或者是对全远距工作有疑问的话呢，可以请他吃晚餐，然后记得就是发讯息给我，我可以帮你做这个约啦。好，然后就好 OK， we are going to following up the next one, the previous one we talked about. So I'm going to ask you what city is your favorite so far?
Well, as I'm sure it'll be no surprise to anyone on this podcast, it would be Taipei. From a livability point of view,
okay,
yeah, definitely Taipei for sure.
Okay, so can you quick introduce which city you have been to?
Yeah, sure.
In Asia?
The cities I've lived in over the past few years, I've spent a substantial amount of time in, would include Taipei, obviously, Tokyo, a bunch of other places in Japan, but not as much as Tokyo. Like Osaka, I've spent a few months there as well. Cebu in the Philippines, spent a long time there. Hong Kong, I spent a substantial amount of time there. And smaller amounts of time, like usually about 3 weeks to about 2 months in places like Kuala Lumpur, Bali, or the island of Bali.
A lot of followers go to Bali.
Oh, it's very popular, yeah. I was I was resistant to the concept of Bali until I went there. I was like, oh, it's really good. Definitely recommend. Seoul and Busan in Korea would be the other ones as well.
And then you also been to Chiang Mai, right?
Of course, yes. Your favorite, actually. I mean, there are lots of places I've been to, but only for like maybe a week or two. So the ones I mentioned just now, I've spent a substantial amount of time in.
You spend more than 1 month, like Tokyo, Cebu, Taipei. Yeah. So your favorite one is Taipei. Why?
From a livability point of view, I think there's a couple of factors behind that. I think one thing is that the infrastructure or transportation of Taipei is really fantastic.
Tokyo is also very good.
Well, we can get in. There are positives and negatives. Let's say that much. So let's just start with the more positive side because we're a positive podcast.
Okay, thank you.
So Taipei, really fantastic metro network, like really easy to get around. The HSR can take you almost anywhere in the country really well. But another really good thing that Taipei has is in urban planning, I believe it's called the last mile. It's like, okay,
so
Ubike? Yes, bingo, exactly. See, of course you know that. Okay. Of course you do. So the HSR might get you from Kaohsiung to Taipei. The subway might get you to, I don't know, like Songshan. Or, yeah, exactly, Tamsui. Maybe the bus will get you to nearby the beach. But then you got that last, 500 meters. And the U-bike system is definitely the best, biking system I've encountered. I probably ride a U-bike 3 or 4 times a day.
Wow.
So the infrastructure is very high there. The second reason is that I probably should have started with this actually. The people are just really friendly. Friendliness and the ability to make friends is a very important component of where I choose to live for long periods of time. And this is where I would draw a contrast between a place like Taipei and a place like Tokyo. So I love Tokyo. I have friends in Tokyo, but I love Tokyo as a tourist, okay? Once you're actually living there and you're trying to really dive into the local culture and get to know people, I found it much more difficult than Taipei, where I found people to be warmer. There was a greater degree of English being spoken, and just various factors like that. So definitely a strong component for Taiwan in general and Taipei in particular is the warmth of the people. Third thing is the food is fantastic. No surprises there. And I would actually say those are probably the major reasons. Oh, and maybe the fourth one is I know it's not the cheapest place in the world, but it's certainly cheaper than Sydney and some of the other alternatives. So when you combine all those factors together, it definitely stands out to me.
How about the people in Cebu?
So Cebu, I spent quite a long time there as well, about 6 months. So the people there are very friendly. Filipinos in general, as I'm sure if you've ever met any, are very outgoing, very friendly. And another good component was they speak English. Almost 100% of people speak English really well. So definitely in terms of making friends, Cebu was the best place I'd stayed. But again, we start talking about positives relative to the negatives. So Taipei, and Cebu have the friendliness, but Taipei has far superior infrastructure to Cebu. There's a lot of traffic, to be honest with you, when it rains, the sewers start to overflow. I love Cebu. I love the Filipino people. I love the country. I've traveled a lot, but there are definitely some big negatives in terms of the infrastructure and
then the Wi-Fi.
Yeah, the Wi-Fi actually isn't too bad. You'd be surprised. But some of the administrative stuff, like the bureaucracy there, can start to really grind you down. And, again, like 6 months, it was good enough for me to spend 6 months there, but it wasn't good enough for me to spend more than 6 months, which is what Taipei's been able to accomplish.
Wow.
So when I frame it, I usually say that Taipei just has a lot of the positives of other places with far less of the negatives. And that's a big component as to why I've chosen to stay here. Yeah.
Wow. Then I'm curious about in the point of view, in the foreigner's view, what's the negative part of Taipei?
Now we're talking. Now, time for me to get up on my podium. Okay, so I will say surprisingly few. I think, actually, you know what? The first time I really felt genuinely annoyed with Taipei was only a month ago. So if you can go somewhere for 9 months before you feel genuinely annoyed, I think that's actually pretty good. But I would say the two biggest factors that are probably the biggest negatives is, number one is the weather.
Too hot?
Oh, yeah, for sure. It's very humid. Because, Taipei it's kind of surrounded by mountains, right? So it doesn't really get much of a sea breeze. And the humidity and the heat tends to sit.
Yeah, I know.
Particularly because it's a very concrete city. There's not as much like greenery and stuff to cool it down a bit. So, definitely the summer, which we've just had, can be quite unbearable. And in the winter, it's not too bad. But in the winter, you get the air pollution. Yeah. So it's kind of like you have like maybe 3 months in the spring and the autumn where it's fantastic, and then everything else is kind of could be better. So that's one negative. Second negative is, I know I just praised the urban infrastructure, but I'm not a big fan of how your traffic system is set up. I think it's very car oriented. Being a pedestrian is kind of like playing dodgems whenever you're trying to cross the road. The sidewalks are quite small and can be difficult to navigate. If you want to ride a Ubike, sometimes you got to ride on the road with drivers who you are not their number one priority, if that makes sense. I know. And I'm sure you would realize, or you've experienced, if you miss like a pedestrian green light, even by a second, there's about 99 seconds of your life gone because they don't have dynamic timing in Taipei. So the thing that kills me is I feel like it could be changed like very easily. Like everything else in Taiwan works so effectively from an outside's perspective. I'm like, you're so close. You just need to fix this one thing and you're the perfect city. So, but I will frame that by saying those are very minor negatives. No city in the world is perfect. And if the worst thing about it is it gets a bit humid, like it's no big deal. But those would probably be the ones I would call out.
Well, thank you so much. Hi, everybody. Cherish your environment.
I cherish you guys being so accommodating to me. So thank you very much for that.
Yeah, and I'm curious about how you make local friends.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So it depends on, there's a bunch of different ways. Yeah. If I think of the friends that I've made in Taipei, the biggest ways would be people who I've known before I came to Taiwan, who, I met up with and maintained that friendship going forward. Another thing is being introduced to friends by, again, friends I already had. So I've been lucky to have friends who have taken me out to house parties or, clubbing or something, and they've introduced me to their friends, and, you start to build like a social network through that. Other ways is for, it's the 21st century. There are all kinds of apps and ways to meet people. Meetup.com is a really good one, which kind of gives opportunities to meet up with people in different circumstances. Other apps as well, like maybe, for example, I'll match with somebody and go on a date with them, and maybe we just become friends through that way. There's all kinds of different ways. Even just talking to people randomly, this hasn't happened in Taiwan, but actually one of my friends I made in Indonesia, we were just eating at a stall together, and I made a comment about the chicken because it wasn't very good, and they, made a comment back, and now we actually just became good friends just by, talking to each other on the street.
I think you are very
Oh, E. Oh, yes. Well, I'm actually ENTJ for all that matters.
I'm TJ.
So pretty close there, yeah. I do definitely think that, making friends and building social connections is one of the issues that needs to be dealt with within the context of being a digital nomad. And again, that's why choosing cities and countries where that's easier is going to be more conducive to that. which is why, for example, I love Japan as a travel destination, but as a place to make friends and build that sense of community, I find it much more difficult compared to a place like, Taiwan or even the Philippines.
Because people is different.
Yes, exactly. And also just the level of English being spoken.
I feel the same way.
Okay.
Though I have a lot of Japanese friends, but still, it's very hard to get deep inside.
Yes, definitely, yeah. And so, just setting yourself up for success by choosing these countries where it's easy to make friends is a good thing. And then, of course, being, the onus is on you. It's not other people's responsibility to come and make you feel like happy and kind of get rid of your loneliness. You need to go out there and put yourself out there and kind of put your best foot forward. And to some degree, that requires a degree of extroversion, I suppose. But I think it also just requires like an earnest and honest kind of attempt to understand the other people, understand their culture, respect it, kind of meet them on their own terms. And you'll quite often find that as long as you meet those basic kind of principles, a lot of people will find you very interesting and will want to kind of talk to you and become your friend. And I've been very lucky in that regard.
That's what I'm going to say, because you are not you are not normal foreigners, because because you read 庄子.
Oh, the Zhuangzi.
Yeah, and then you also go to see the 妈祖.
Oh, 妈祖, yes. The Dajia.
对，他去妈祖绕境，我都还没去过，然后他竟然去过，我真的是非常的震惊。
Yeah, one of the most fantastic festivals I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
Well, just commenting on that, like, this is something I've thought about quite a bit. Like, if you're going to another country, like, what's the point of eating pasta? You can go back home and eat pasta. If you go to Taiwan, you should eat like Taiwanese beef noodle or braised rice or something, or guabao. If you're going to another country, what's the point of just becoming friends with other people from Australia or Britain? Why don't you make friends with the locals there and try to understand things from their perspective? And same with going to see like the festivals or those different like holidays and experiences. Like, the whole point of travel is to kind of engage and understand a world that's different from yours. That's how I see it. People might have different perspectives, and I'm not saying they're wrong. Like, if you just want to go relax on a beach in Bali, that's totally okay. But I think that the best experience, or the most the most enlivening to the soul, will come through an earnest attempt to engage with the culture and the locals on their level. And yes, that does include, in my opinion, reading the Zhuangzi and going to see Matsu pilgrimage, for sure.
And I'm also curious how many Taiwanese can discuss 庄子 with you.
I met a few, yourself included.
Thank you.
But usually it goes about as far as some of the phrases like 道义有道, and then
道义有道.
Yeah. But I obviously, it's your guys' culture. I'm trying to meet you on your terms, but I love it when people kind of know that stuff and we can talk about it. It's really fun.
Yeah, I know you when you been to a different country, you study the local culture books or learn the local cultures.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that when you travel to really get like a good understanding, and again to meet them, the locals in their level, you should try to watch one of their movies, read one of their books, and become friends with somebody.
Yeah, so
there.
you are learning Chinese right now, right?
Very slowly. Please don't ask me to speak because it will butcher the ears of everyone listening. But I have made some earnest attempts to kind of try to learn the language to some, or at least the reading.
You can speak Japanese? Can you?
Oh, God, no.
No? You know? Not even single word?
I was learning, like Nihongo ga wakarimasen. Okay. That's the most essential one. I always try to learn the local language when I'm there. Like, I'll write notes, I'll practice on, servers and with my friends and stuff. But, I haven't really lived in Japan for over a year now. So I need a refresher every time I go there.
I understand that. I've also learned Thai before, but I almost forgot all the things.
It's just about, just keeping
you need to
up,
use that.
Yes, exactly. 100%.
Yeah. So would you feel lonely? Lonely? Because lonely.
Oh, lonely.
Yeah. Far away from your families?
Well, this is we have a kind of phrase in English which goes, you don't need to be alone to feel lonely. And, you don't need to be lonely to feel, or to be alone. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And so in many times I've actually felt more lonely being around people back home than here, just in the sense of, it has a lot to do with the environment you're in. If you're in an environment that's conducive to your sense of like self-worth, then generally you won't feel lonely because you'll have like a sense of purpose and you'll feel more outgoing to talk to people, right? So I'm sure everyone this podcast or listening to this podcast would have been in a situation where they're with friends, but maybe they're being excluded from the conversation, or maybe there's an in-joke they don't understand and they're going to feel like a bit off-put by that. Or maybe they go to a family gathering and, there's a bit of a rift between one side of the family and the other, and you feel like, you feel more lonely or more kind of disconnected from being there, So I think I want to start off by challenging the idea that, kind of going somewhere else by yourself is necessarily going to lead to loneliness. I think it's about how you choose to kind of take it, So from my side, I'm a pretty independent person. I really enjoy solo travel. And so being able to kind of live those opportunities and be in that really healthy environment, or the environment that I really enjoy, kind of keeps me in like a good emotional state, okay? But of course, I'm a human. I do need that human contact. And so like I said before, being able to get out there and make local friends is very important to kind of maintaining that level of like emotional and psychological well-being. There have definitely been times when I was just, for example, setting myself up in a country and I didn't really know anyone. Or maybe I had a friend, but they're on the other side of the country. And it can be tough, like wanting to kind of have that engagement, have that kind of ability to talk to people about what's on your mind, but not really having people around you to do that. But, if you're confident in your ability to make friends, and again, like I said, you meet the locals on their own level, you can, I find, very quickly build up a friendship network. And I would actually say that my friendship network in Taipei right now is probably larger than it is in Sydney.
Wow.
Because one other factor I just want to quickly mention is that when you're kind of in a comfortable situation, you tend to kind of become a bit more like conservative, I suppose, in how you choose to like engage with people outside your immediate social circle. So if you're kind of in the same place you've been living for 20 years, you're surrounded by family, your 2 or 3 close friends, maybe there's somebody who tries to talk to you or who tries to be like, maybe you bumped into them like, oh, hey, where you from kind of thing. If you're in that kind of really comfortable social circle, you might be like, oh, I'm too busy. I don't want to kind of engage with this. But when you're kind of thrown in the deep end, as happens when you're a digital nomad or you're a traveler, maybe you're actually more open to these opportunities to kind of engage with other people that you might not normally be pursuing or be open to in your own place, right? So while acknowledging that, yes, you are kind of away from your social safety network as you would be in your own country, the amount of opportunities you gain to actually kind of grow your social network and meet really fantastic new people like yourself, Cecily, is definitely something that I think shouldn't be underestimated for sure, yeah. And as for family, that is definitely the hardest thing. I'm not going to lie and say, oh, it's fine. I do miss my family a lot. And but you actually find ways around it. Like, for example, the vacation I'm going on to Japan and later China after that, my mum's actually coming along.
Yeah.
So I said, hey, Mum, I'll organize everything. All you have to do is come and spend like 3 weeks with me. And she's like, oh, that's a I'm giving up a lot for that, but okay, sure, I'll do it. And I personally think, and maybe this is self-validation, but I personally think that 3 months traveling with my mom is probably going to be
3 months?
3 weeks. 3 weeks. 3 months is too long. Way too long. So, 3 weeks, let me clarify. Don't get any ideas, Mom, if you're listening. 3 week is probably going to create more happy memories that we'll cherish than maybe 5 months of just living at home and getting on each other's nerves. You know what I mean?
I bring my mom twice this year.
Exactly. Yeah. So yes, missing family is a negative side effect or an effect of that, but there are ways to work around it if your family is open to what you're doing and is happy to meet you halfway, and if you're also prepared to kind of like make adjustments to accommodate that. Yeah.
Okay, so this kind of life you keep is for like 4 years.
Yeah, about 3 years now.
3 years. Yeah. Do you feel tired? Were you?
Oh no.
Do you?
Absolutely. It tends to go, and here, let's talk yin-yang. No, let's not yin-yang. Chaos and order. There are definitely periods where I'm full of energy. It's like, I want to spend like 2 weeks in a city and then move on. I want to like travel heaps. I want to have these experiences. I have the energy. I want to go out. I want to meet new people. But there are definitely periods, usually after a significant time of doing that, where I just collapse. I need to recharge my batteries. I'm tired all the time. It can tend to fluctuate between them. And so, what I find works is that during periods of high energy, you can be more dynamic about the places you're going. Like, I've been very high energy this past month and a half or so. So in the past, since the beginning of July, I've been to Okinawa, been to Osaka, came back to Taiwan. I went to Penghu, I went to Xiaoliuqiu, I went to Sun Moon Lake, you know.
日月潭.
Yeah, exactly. I should have said the Chinese, sorry.
It's
sorry,
okay.
Mandarin. And so, you know, that's a period of high energy. So I'm expressing that by going around and, you know, having all these experiences.
So you can get energy from that.
Exactly. It can actually be self-reinforcing. But, you know, I've also been feeling, you know, after this vacation coming up, I'm probably just going to collapse, you know, after all I've been doing. And so what I can do is I can just say, you know, relax in Taipei for maybe a month or two, just go to the gym every day, have a schedule, meet up with friends once or twice. Stabilize, exactly.
Yeah.
So, you know, again, going back to the yin yang idea, you'll have periods where there's a lot of chaos, there's a lot of disorder, but that can be very rejuvenating. But also, sometimes it can be too much. And that's when you have your yang, that's when you have your order, that's when you stay at home, you eat a pizza, you watch like a movie with a friend kind of thing.
It sounds like people need diversity life.
Bingo, exactly. It's the spice of life. And again, like whenever I go home, I go back and live with my mom for the month or two that, you know, I choose to go back. And then she spoils me rotten. It's like I'm a teenager again. She like cooks my meals, or like makes me tea. I mean, obviously I'll, you know, do the same for her. But generally, you know, you can also recharge your batteries. Like no one's forcing you to travel 10 months a year. You can adjust that to suit what works for you and works for your family as well. Yeah.
Cool. And yeah, I think I still have one topic that I want to discuss with you. And we discussed before because about the social script.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
You know,
sure.
we have the same pattern for the people. Like you need to graduate and find a job and buy a house, get married, have kids. And I want to know your opinion about this kind of social script.
Okay, that is a very good question. Do you mind if I get like a little bit philosophical on you for a second?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So this kind of script exists in the sense of it's kind of reinforced by societal expectation, right?
Yeah.
So in a certain German philosophy by Luhrmann, he talks about society being autopoietic. So all that means is society reinforces itself, okay? So this script exists because it tends to be the most conducive to maintaining an orderly society, okay? As much as I love what I do, not everyone in the world could be doing it at the same time. That's just a simple fact. You do need this kind of, you know, you need people to get an education so that they can, you know, get social mobility. You need people to get a mortgage so that there's kind of that kind of economic element happening. You need people to marry and have kids so that, you know, society and the population can propagate. This is pretty self-explanatory.
They cannot travel along.
Yeah, exactly.
Like me.
No comment. And what I really want to stress is nothing about that is inherently wrong. In fact, many of the elements on that step I have taken and I do intend to take at a certain point when I feel like I'm ready. Like I would never draw a value judgment for or against it. But what I am saying is that the script exists to maintain society, but it doesn't necessarily kind of fit with the individual, okay? So on average, it might work, again, across like population averages, but for the individual, maybe they don't fit in that box perfectly. You know, maybe they just don't have the mind for a university education. Maybe they're really good with their hands. Or maybe, you know, they don't really want to have a kid in their 20s. Maybe they want to wait a bit longer so they can see the world so they don't live with regrets kind of thing, you know? So the way I see it is everyone is on a very uniquely personal kind of like journey to achieve like a sense of spiritual fulfillment or self-actualization, all right? And I think society, you know, the script it gives, you know, I think it's a pretty good script, but I think it's a script that needs to work within what you want to get out of life kind of thing. If the day comes when you say, oh, I am ready for that mortgage, I am ready for those kids, that marriage, that kind of thing, then that's fantastic. Go along with the script, right? But I think when you make that decision, you need to make the decision because you came to the conclusion yourself to do so. If you're doing things like that because social media is like, you know, telling you to do so, because your parents are telling you to do so, because the teachers are telling you to do so, then you're not making a choice for yourself. You're making a choice at the greater society.
Because of others.
Exactly, because of others. And I'm not going to say that those decisions will inherently be wrong, but I think the chance or the likelihood of regret is much higher because you're not living in accordance with your own ideals, okay? So that's generally the philosophy I've taken with life. And one thing I do want to stress is that, God, what was I going to stress? Oh, yeah, just that I understand that maybe some people will say, well, this is a very Western way of thinking about things, very individualistic, you know? Mm-hmm. I've had a lot of friends who say, well, you say this, but you haven't grown up in like a Taiwanese or an Asian culture where your mom and your dad is being like, oh, now you must study, now you must marry, now you must have kids.
That's our tradition.
Exactly. There's a traditional element.
Yeah.
And so I don't want to, come barreling in and say that the way I think about things is inherently right. And I also don't want to undervalue, the kind of role that these things play in your life. I was very lucky that I had parents and a family who was very open to the approach I wanted to take. But I do want to kind of caveat by saying that I do have a lot of Taiwanese friends who have basically said, the life you're living or the approach you're taking is what I want to do. It's just I don't have the opportunity to do so. Or maybe they reach a point where they say, I wish I'd had this mentality at like a younger age kind of thing. And so that's kind of like an empirical, perhaps, argument for what I'm saying. While also, caveating that, of course, the traditional perspective also has lots of benefits, but just within the context of what I'm talking about for the digital nomad route, that's kind of the basis behind it, yeah.
I think the young generation in Taiwan right now is more individual than the other one like me. Yeah, because I think I have the right to speak because I was in that kind of a tradition. That my parents want me to follow the path, get married, get a good job or something like that. But I jumped from that and choose the life I want.
Yeah.
Yeah, I made a decision by myself, but I spent a lot of years to figure out. Yeah, that's why I want to ask you this kind of question, because a lot of Taiwanese, they need that kind of voices. They need that kind of opinions to encourage them to make their own choices.
Yeah. I think the point you raised is really good. And having gotten to know you over the past period of time, you're definitely somebody who, is quite a maverick in that regard, which I really respect. But again, I just really want to stress this because I think people can kind of mistake this. I'm not necessarily arguing that anything I'm saying is inherently correct or better than alternatives. I'm just saying that, as you said, hearing all the possibilities and knowing that there are different pathways outside of the traditional framework enforced or reinforced by society opens up possibilities.
Yeah.
If you look at every possibility, including being a digital nomad, and you decide, I actually want the education, I want the mortgage, I want the kids, I want the dog.
Yeah, that's also good.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
As long as you chose it by thinking about the options and making the one that works for you. But if you decide, maybe I want something different, then the world opens up to you. Okay.
Yeah, I think the best way is you made a decision and you enjoy that. And better than that, you choose the marriage and mortgage, and you envy others people can do the digital nomad life.
Yeah, for sure.
That is not necessary.
Exactly. And actually, that's kind of a callback to our the first part of our podcast from before. Again, start with the thing that's the most difficult to accomplish and work backwards. Like, I think it's probably slightly easier to get married than it is. Oh, maybe people will disagree with me, but I don't know. I think, society, again, tends to encourage the things that, like we talked about before. And so I think if you got the opportunity to be a digital nomad, give it a go. Give it a go. Give it 6 months. Give it a year. If you don't like it, you can always come back and pick up all the other stuff. But if you do like it, well, maybe you found a different pathway, and that's really cool. Yeah.
Yeah, you need to try.
Yeah, absolutely.
Try
give
first.
It a try.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
Cool.
Okay. Do you have any recommendation, suggestion for the people want to try digital nomad life?
Yeah, absolutely, I do. The first thing is you got to be practical about it. You got to think about the kind of jobs and positions that will actually enable it. Like, being a lawyer, being a doctor, being a nurse, let's face it, you're not going to be able to work a digital nomad in that kind of hands-on job. If you really, really do want to do this, you need to think about the jobs that can be done remotely. So examples of that would be something related to technology, like what I'm doing. Could be data, could be cybersecurity. It could be something related to the creative field, like, writing or maybe kind of like copywriting or something like that. Excuse me. It has to be something that can be done remotely. So that's the first thing. Let's get the practical stuff down. Second thing is that, you need to kind of build up the skills to be able to, like, achieve the position that would enable you to do that. There really aren't that many kind of like entry level or junior positions that would give you that degree of flexibility, because if they exist, then they're going to be snapped up like straight away, because everybody wants that opportunity if they have it. So you're going to have to commit to something and really work towards the point where you are able to kind of accomplish that level of responsibility that will enable you to be able to have that opportunity. Another possibility or another thing as well is a lot of people will do freelance. So if you're able to build up enough of a business, say as a copywriter or a marketer, then maybe you can basically charge your own kind of like fee, and in exchange you can work anywhere in the world. So like my brother, who as I said is going to go work in Argentina, he's a freelance copywriter, and he actually works for kind of clients in the US. So very similar time zone, and so he's actually able to work as much as he wants to, charge what he wants to, within reason, and he has in some sense more flexibility even than I do. Okay, so so to reassert, got to choose this the kind of the job or the career that enables you to be able to do so. Got to work really hard to get in the position where you can be trusted, or you have the ability to get enough clients to be able to maintain that livelihood. And then again, have the resilience, the fortitude, and the dedication to be able to action that and really push forward for it, because it's not something that's going to fall in your lap. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much. So it's almost half hour.
Oh, sorry, I talked too much.
No need to sorry. I think it's a fantastic. Thanks for sharing so many tips and topics.
My pleasure. Yeah.
OK， 真的很感谢，就是 Fred 来上那个 CP 有主见，然后跟大家分享了这么多，就是数位游牧的事情，不管是在城市居住啊，怎么交朋友啊，然后什么样的人适合做这些事情，但我们也讨论到了传统就是社会下的这个老鼠笼的这个事情啦。当然这个就是属于我们两个人的看法，没有所谓的对或错，没有所谓的最好跟最不好，只有适不适合你的问题，然后这个东西是不是你决定的。不要介意我的破烂英文，然后就是我的极限大概就到这里了，然后我可以听得懂他说话，我都觉得我自己十分的了不起。好 anyway， 就如果呢你听完这一集有任何的 feedback， 或你有任何的问题就是想要问我，或者是想要问 Fred 的话呢，你都可以留言或私讯让我知道。然后最后呢，更希望就是各位甲方都能追寻自己想要的生活，过上自己想要的人生，这就是我录 podcast 的其中一个很大的目的。然后就是非常感谢大家的收听，然后记得到 Apple Podcast 给我5星好评，然后分享给需要数位游牧的朋友。好，这一集就到这边，谢谢大家。Thanks for your coming.
Thanks for inviting me on. It's been a pleasure.
Okay. See you. Bye bye.
Bye.